Hi guys, it's Julie from cookbyjulie.com. Today we're making $1,000,000 spaghetti. If that sounds a bit weird or obnoxious, just give it a pass because it's really good. So let's get started. Alright, so my cousin who is obsessed with Pinterest is always making these sort of recipes, so she wanted to see my take on this. It sounded weird at first, but it's really good. You want to start by sauteing some onions. I like to cook them for 3 to 4 minutes or until they're translucent. I then add some garlic. Unfortunately, I was out of fresh garlic, so I used garlic paste, but definitely use fresh garlic if you have it on hand. I just use beef for my meat sauce, but some people use a mixture of beef and pork. Completely up to you. I like to break it up with my hands, but feel free to use a wooden spoon to do so. I cooked the beef over high heat until it was completely brown. That should take about 10 to 15 minutes. And as always, to get the complete recipe along with written instructions in more detail, go on over to my website, cookbyjulie.com. I like to sprinkle in some red pepper flakes. I do about a teaspoon, and how you season your meat sauce is completely optional. I like to do a little bit of Italian seasoning, chili powder, granulated garlic, salt and pepper, of course, lots of it. You want your meat sauce to be very well seasoned. You can certainly add some wine here, preferably red wine. You can also add a little bit of sugar if you'd like. I'm a big believer in adjusting recipes to your liking. Give everything a good mix. I did add some tomato paste and try to break up the beef. If you see large chunks here and there, just break it up. I use crushed tomatoes and I let the meat sauce cook for about an hour over a medium-low heat. Make sure you cook it for at least an hour or until the beef is nice and tender. You can add some fresh basil if you'd like. I'm one of those obnoxious people that say things like meat sauce isn't meat sauce without fresh basil. I hate when I hear things like that come out of my mouth at parties because who am I to judge anybody's meat sauce? But basil really is so good in meat sauce. But I didn't have any on hand. Kind of regret it. But get yourself some fresh basil and add it. I always like to add a little splash of water because it is going to cook for a long time, and the longer it cooks, the thicker it will get. You may discard any excess oil your beef releases. I just left it in. You can always go back with a ladle and skim it off the top if you'd like. Once your sauce is done cooking, please make sure to check for seasoning. If it needs more salt, add it. Here's my trick. If it doesn't taste amazing, get creative. And by creative, I mean playing around with a bunch of different spices and sauces. Although I think with a generous amount of salt, good quality tomatoes, garlic, onions, and a tad bit of spice, like red chili flakes, that should be more than enough. It should give you an amazing sauce. Sometimes simple is best. Here I have some cream cheese and some cottage cheese. This is where it gets a little crazy. You may think, no, I'm not doing this. Trust me, it's really good. If you combine some cottage cheese and cream cheese and season it with salt and pepper, give it a taste. If you don't like it, then don't make this recipe. But if you taste this and it tastes good, go ahead and make the recipe. I use spaghetti, but feel free to use any type of pasta you'd like. A lot of people, when making $1,000,000 spaghetti, they like to layer it. And yes, $1,000,000 spaghetti is an actual recipe. So some do a layer of butter, then spaghetti, then the cottage cheese, and then finally the meat sauce and mozzarella cheese on top. Some people even add sour cream. Some use jar sauce. Because I always adjust recipes to my liking, I'd rather simmer some meat sauce for an hour, and I wasn't too fond of layering because I felt like the spaghetti would be a little dry. So I decided to mix it with the cottage cheese mixture like this. I poured most of the meat sauce on top. I think I had like a cup left over. Smooth out the top, and then you want to add some shredded mozzarella cheese. I also did some fresh Parmesan and a little bit of oregano. Actually, I added a little too much oregano. I placed it in the oven for about 15 minutes, and this is going to be super creamy and rich. But in order to enjoy this, I would say you have to be a fan of cottage cheese. If you are not a fan of cottage cheese, you can use ricotta cheese or even sour cream here. Even some mascarpone cheese would work as well. If you have kids, I'm pretty sure, almost certain they are going to love this. And you will too. I wanted to show you guys how creamy this was. I would love to credit the person who invented this $1,000,000 spaghetti recipe, but unfortunately, I don't know who created it. Definitely give this recipe a try. Let me know if you do. And I want to thank you guys so much for watching.